Okay, we are recording live.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for checking out the show. Today, we have an awesome guest for you. He is the CEO of Firesprings. He also helps businesses find their why and deepen their impact. In 2018, he founded the Do More Good movement to help educate, empower, and amplify companies. Please welcome our guest today, Jay Wilkinson. Thank you so much, Jay, for coming on the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Devin. How you doing? Looks like I'm doing better than you are with that cast on your arm.
At this point, yes, you are. You guys are doing better than I am.
What did you do? You trip down the stairs, Dev?
No, classic skateboarding mishap. So don't stick those wrists out when you fall down. Rule number
tuck
one.
Tuck and roll.
Exactly.
I'm just happy to hear that it wasn't the way you took out the last guest on your podcast. That
would be dragged off kicking and screaming. So okay, this point in our show, what we do is we do something called Two Truths and a Lie. So with every guest, they've sent us two truths about them and one lie, and Devin and I have to figure out what that is. So here we go. Number one. Okay, supermodel Cindy Crawford, just the two of us, were enjoying cocktails and conversation. Wow, that's a pretty good one.
So just to be clear on this, these are people with whom I've been in a hot tub.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. You were in a hot tub. It's even better.
That framing is really important.
That's right. That's even better. You're in a hot tub. Okay. Here's the next one. Actress Sandra Oh on holiday at Whistler while the snow gently fell around us. It's very nice. Wow, Sandra Oh in a hot tub. Now she's from Grey's Anatomy and a whole bunch of, and she's Canadian too, actually, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah. 2007 Playboy Playmate of the Year, Sandra Underwood, but in the grotto at Hugh Hefner's house, the Playboy Mansion in the Hollywood Hills.
Cool. Oh man.
So I can comment on a couple of these, but Dev, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I think the third one's I'm believing. Let's throw it in the mix. Let's go with the second one.
Okay, so Sandra Oh at Whistler.
Sure.
Okay, so I know Jay's been to Whistler because he was here at Christmas with us last year. So I think that's possible. You never mentioned anything about running into Sandra Oh in the hot tub, though.
Definitely possible.
And the Playboy Playmate, I've got something coming up later in the show here that I can kind of talk to about that. So I think it's a Cindy Crawford.
Oh yeah, Cindy Crawford.
So what are we looking at here, Jay?
So I have spent alone time in a hot tub with Cindy Crawford.
Oh my gosh.
And also with the Playmate of the Year at Hef's Mansion. But I will mention on that one, it wasn't alone time. My wife, Tanya, was with me as well. Just want to be clear about that. It was the three of us. But no Sandra Oh.
Oh,
no Sandra Oh. Wow.
So Devin got it.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's good. I thought for sure, like, because you've been to Whistler so many times, like, oh, okay, that's a possibility, man.
That's wild.
Okay,
wow,
that's wild.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So we've got some topics here to chat about. Jay's an incredible guy. We could talk all day. He's actually, the two of us met at Boston at our MIT Entrepreneurs Conclave with the Entrepreneurs Organization called Gathering of Titans, which is super cool organization that I owe a lot to. And Jay's been making a difference all over the world, and I really wanted him on our show because he's a real game changer. And there's some interesting things that is going on in the world of business these days, and I just want to talk a little bit about like the shift. There's been a worldwide shift from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism. So do you want to shine a little bit of light? I think that's really cool. I love that whole statement there. And I love, if this is actually happening, I love this. So yeah, if you want to talk a little bit about this, Jay, it'd be wonderful. And
it is exciting to think about if this is really happening, it's big. And I personally believe that we are literally on the precipice of the biggest change in business since the industrial age and then the computer and technology age that followed that. I think what's about to happen is that companies that don't understand that they have to exist for more than just putting money in the pockets of the shareholder owners, I don't think those companies are going to be around in another 5 to 8 years. I think that the millennials and the Gen Z, the young people, say 30 years of age and under today that are in the workforce, will not work for companies that don't stand for something more than just returning capital to the owner of that business. And
Right.
I think it's it's not only the biggest change and there's so much evidence that supports this belief that it's happening all over. And we can go in and talk about all those different things that we're seeing.
So I think it's really cool that you mentioned this, Jay, because I mean, Devin and I, we're kind of a multi-generational podcast, right? Devin's the young guy and I'm the old gray-haired guy. But it's really cool because we've had a few guests on recently, and we were talking about something similar. And people Devin's age, hey, Devin, what are you thinking? Like, people your age, are they thinking, am I going to go work for a company for the dollar or for whatever? Or is there something else there? Is there something that the younger people are thinking, I want to have, a bit of purpose in my work?
Right.
What's the echo in?
There definitely has to be, for my group of friends, at least, there's got to be some incentive towards, pushing the company to do, something. For me, it's always been kind of like environmental work, right? I want to work for a company that's doing some good in the world like that. I worked for Green Coast. Instead of taking all your junk and throwing it into the landfills, like we had Eamon on, you take it and we recycle all these things. So, and I think that it's definitely just like, it's the progressive nature of this world that we should all be pushing towards those things anyways. And of course, working for your company, I know I've worked for a few other jobs where it kind of had a difference, like Aritzia, which is just a ladies' clothing store. Working there, I was getting paid well, but there was no fulfillment in knowing what I did really mattered or made a difference.
Yes.
So yeah, but I'm finding with like my peers that a lot of my friends will want to work for a company that will make a little bit less money, but just making a difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, Jay, if you want to throw a little bit more onto this is a fascinating topic.
Well,
very relevant.
I think in my mind, the origin of this got laid down way back when Milton Friedman, back in the day, talked about the fact that the sole purpose of capitalism is to return money to the shareholders,
right.
Period, end of story. And then, anybody who watches Shark Tank today and is a fan of Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, he's been featured on the cover of Inc. magazine saying that profit is the only thing that matters. And so, there are people that are on that side of the spectrum. And I want to be really clear about something that I believe and the Do More Good movement believes. Yes. Profit is not evil. Profit is necessary. We have to be able to create profit from the work that we do, or we can't continue to sustain the good work that we do. It's not about not making profit or giving all of your money away, unless you're one of the top 100 most richest people on the planet and a billionaire. It's not about that. It's about making sure that along the way we are creating change and giving back and not waiting for something. And I will tell you firsthand, for me personally, this was an epiphany that I had somewhere around 2012. I had spent the majority of my adult life up to that point in time thinking that someday I'm going to make enough money and I'm going to put enough away and I'm going to do something. And the motive for me specifically was for my dad.
Right.
My dad is my mentor in life and business and just an amazing human. And I've always thought I want to do something to honor his legacy. And I remember talking to my brothers and I was talking to some of, his grandkids, my kids and others, and having discussions about what do you think grandpa would be the most meaningful to him. And finally I got, the courage to ask him at Thanksgiving one year. I think it was about 2012. I kind of sat him down. I started asking him all kinds of questions. And he's looking at me like, why are you asking me these silly questions? The only thing I care about is that I have kids and grandkids that are in good health and that understand how to do the right thing in life and in the world, and that they take action on what is right. And that's all he cared about. And, so all this time I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to save up enough money to build a park and name it after my dad, or a hospital wing, or some stupid thing like that, only to realize that, I should have been thinking about this all along. It's not something you wait for. And this is something that Devin and your entire generation gets this at a far deeper level than I did when I was in my 20s and 30s, I will say. And certainly, we're all different all over the board. And I'm not trying to classify every millennial or Gen Z, as thinking the same. That's not it at all.
Totally.
But I got to this realization that the only way that we can create the impact and rise from success to significance is to be on the journey daily, weekly, monthly, not just saving it up and building it up for something. And so that's when my company, Firespring, became a certified B Corporation in 2014.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, fantastic.
And we helped pass legislation for benefit.
Can you just explain what a B Corporation is for our listeners there, just really quickly?
Of course. So there are actually two things that I'll explain. That in the United States, there are 35 states plus DC, so 36 states really that offer benefit corporation legislation, and legislation is in works in Canada as well, and in Brazil and other places around the world, that makes it possible for a company to change their status as a business to a benefit corporation, which doesn't typically, like in the United States, it does not change tax laws in any way. You're still structured exactly the way you were before. All it does is it makes you alter your bylaws as a corporation, or your charter is, depending on how you're structured, to say that when matters come before the board of directors or the decision-making entity of this organization, we will take into consideration the social and environmental impact of our decisions. That's all it says.
Right.
And then we publish an annual report saying how we're doing that. That's really all a benefit corporation is. Now, to become a certified B Corporation, you have to first, if it's available in your country and or your state, you have to first become a benefit corporation. And once you've achieved that status, and if there's no such status available in the country, they waive it until that option is available. Then you can apply by filling out this really arduous assessment online. It takes about 3 hours the first time you go through it, answering a lot of questions, and it makes you feel like very inadequate as a business leader, the first time you go through it, because there's so many things you're not doing that you hadn't thought of. But it gives you back a score, and it'll tell you, well, here's where you are, here's where the average business is, and here's where you need to be to become a certified B Corporation. And there's a lot of things there, and it allows you to make decisions to change the way you do business, to make sure that you are more in alignment with these principles that are serving our planet and the social fabric of our communities. And so becoming a certified B Corporation is a process of going through this assessment and approval process, at the end of which you achieve the score that you need to be at. And it's not expensive. It's a moderate cost, it depends on the revenues of the company. But it's typically, the average cost is around $7,500 US, and that's it per year. And smaller companies can become certified B Corporations for, just $1,000 a year. It's really, really affordable. So it's not about the cost. It's about the work that it takes to get there, and about then becoming part of a peer group where you're enabling and helping one another expand your base of knowledge and grow and learn how to do it better. So every year, we're constantly evolving and sharing information with one another.
Well, yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. So, could you tell us a little bit about your do good movement? When I was chatting with you a couple of years ago, you mentioned that you have your Do Good movement. You had a conference in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's where you're from, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is really cool stuff. I'd love to attend this conference and kind of network with these type of people with the same type of mindset. So yeah. So what is the
so the Do More Good conference
Do More Good, yeah,
started in 2019, and it
Mm-hmm.
was the outcropping of a project that I started several years earlier.
Yeah.
My company, Firespring,
Yeah.
in 2016 was featured in Inc. magazine as one of the 50 best places to work in America. And
Fantastic.
I look at those kind of things
Yeah.
with the same suspicious side eye that I think most people do. It's like, someone from our team nominated our company. We go through a process. Still incredibly proud of it, but I just want to make sure I'm clear. I know how those things are often looked at and seen.
It's good.
But as a result of that, I started getting invited to speak about company culture, because that's what our company was known for developing really amazing values and building people that were just passionate about making sure that we lived the ethos of our business and our organization. So I started talking about culture, and I was at a conference, and somebody raised their hand. This would have been about late 2017, early 2018. I was speaking at a conference, and someone asked a question, Jay, what's the future of culture? I mean, how is culture going to change in the next 5 years? And I said, it's a great question. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows, but so I started to do some research. My wife Tanya and I started a process. And we have since now interviewed over 500 CEOs of purpose-driven businesses.
Wow.
Asking them that same question and going deep to try to understand. And the idea behind it was writing a book around the future of company culture. But about halfway through the project, we realized it's not about culture. Culture is part of it. It's one part of this thing that we started to hear and see. But we heard all of these themes come out of these conversations we're having with people around what we're now referring to as the 4 fundamental tenets of the Do More Good movement. And so it was founded upon, the first tenet that we heard over and over around an abundance mindset. Number one, the opposite of a scarcity mindset, as Stephen Covey talked about. It's about the rising tide lifts all boats. We're all in this together, and let's think big, and let's embrace change, and let's move on this and do it together. The second tenet.
Yeah, that's really cool that you said that, the abundance mindset. So
it's everything.
It is everything. And we have Lynn Twist coming on, who wrote a book called The Soul of Money, and she runs a Pachamama. She's incredible. And she talks really well about an abundance mindset. So thank you for bringing that. That's fantastic.
It is. It's critical. Yeah. So the second fundamental tenet is service to others. And that's the shift in shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism. It's about leading all the people around us. The third tenet is adapt and evolve. I heard that over and over and over again.
Yes.
Companies that exist for decades and then even generations are companies that learn how to reinvent themselves every couple of years, and they're constantly seeking how to find a better way and to think different than the way they might have a year ago or 5 years ago. We heard that over and over again. And then the fourth attribute is one that is a little frilly, and I get some people that bristle from time to time when they hear it. But I heard it. It's the one theme that I heard out of the mouths of all these CEOs of these amazing companies more than any other. And the fourth attribute is love. And it's not love in the traditional sense of passionate love that you might have for a spouse or a loved one. It's about compatriot love and compassionate love for the people that are around you and the people that you serve, not just through your business, but in the communities in the broader sense. And there was a massive study that was done by Harvard University that has been one of the longest. It was a 75-year study that cost over $20 million. And at the end of this study, George Valiant, the person that ran it at the end, because they had different people, handing the baton off as they ran this study, the goal of it was to find the true meaning of happiness. What is happiness, and how do we get it? 75 years, millions of dollars. And at the end of the whole study, the conclusion is happiness is love, full stop.
Right.
And that's what it's about. So
Sure.
we took these four foundational attributes. We pulled together a conference that included the co-founders of the conscious capitalism movement.
Yes, right.
The founder of the certified B Corp movement, J. Cohen Gilbert. We brought in the person that was instrumental in establishing benefit corporation legislation in the United States. She was President Obama's chief legal counsel during his tenure in office. Her name is Preeta Bansal. And we put all of them on stage together. So it was the first time ever at any conference, in any scenario, where the leaders of the largest shifts and changes or movements or frameworks around putting purpose in business, they were ever on the same stage together. So each of them shared their input and their construct, along with, by the way, I left one out, 1% for the planet was represented at the conference as well, which is really back in 2002 when Yvon Chouinard started 1% for the planet. It was the foundation. It was the first of the many. Certified B Corps followed in 2006, and then benefit corporation legislation shortly thereafter, and then conscious capitalism really didn't start until 2010 when John Mackey published his first book.
I love Yvon Chouinard's book. What is it? Let My People Surf or something?
Surf. It's a great book.
Fantastic. His story is just, he's an incredible person. Yeah, I just love his story.
So the conference was about bringing these concepts to the street. So the Do More Good movement is not, it's not a replacement. It's not a competitor of conscious capitalism. It takes all of the principles of conscious capitalism, of 1% for the planet, of certified B Corps, of benefit corporation legislation, and it channels it into education on helping business leaders understand that there are options. There is a path to purpose. You just choose the one that best suits your natural wiring as a business leader and as a company. Find your path, but choose one and seek it and have an amazing journey. And that's, so the conference is about providing all that education around the edges of that. And building up all of these different frameworks that already exist out in the world.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And just a personal experience is that Devin and our family, we were in the Galapagos Islands a couple of years ago, and we were tracing Darwin's steps. And what you're saying here, and what I see, business of the past was survival of the fittest. Okay, survival of the fittest, which is what Darwin actually did not say that. We thought he said that, but he didn't say that. But what we learned following Darwin with our guides and our friends in the Galapagos and spending time with the animals, both above the ocean and on the land, was it's like the finch. There's a book about the finch, right? The adaptation. So what is it called, Dev? The
beak of the finch.
The beak of the finch. Yeah. Incredible story. But it's like you're saying, it's those that adapt and evolve that thrive. That's what actually Darwin was saying. It wasn't conquer and, the fittest survive. It was actually those that can. So what you're saying is, I think, exactly this. So this is really starting from the natural world coming into our world is really starting to make sense now in this era, in this time. And I think that's what your conference is all about.
It is. And by the way, Leon Megason, the person who actually had the quote, it is not the strongest of the species that survives. It's the most intelligent, the most responsive to change. He was inspired by Darwin when he wrote that.
Right.
So there's a reason why it's attributed to Darwin all the time, because it was the work of Darwin that inspired him to create that quote. He was a professor at LSU when he wrote that.
Really? Okay. Learn something every day. That's fantastic. Oh my gosh.
But it is bang on. I mean, it is there's so much behind the importance of the need to adapt and evolve and
especially now. So especially now we've come through this crazy year of 2020 and coming hopefully out of COVID, this whole adapting and evolve, I think it is absolutely key for our human race, not just business. Can you talk a little bit about that? What has COVID done to change business and the mindset of business? And how are we how do you see us coming out and thriving out of this gentle nudge that nature has given us.
Yeah. I think that business has permanently been affected, and for the better. I think that we will all find on the other side of COVID as we come out of this. I personally believe that we're all going to find that the commitment we have to the work that we do, and the outcomes of that work, is going to be seen through a different lens. I've talked to so many people that that have been in the position where they still have work to do, and so there's some people that have been deeply affected, and they're put in a position now where they have to go find what their next thing is, and that too, I believe, are silver linings in the waiting for people to find their next thing. But it's really fascinating to me how people are thinking different now. I'm hearing people that were maybe marginally on the entrepreneurial fringe now thinking really seriously about my own business and about starting my own thing. Yeah. I see people in the paradigm of this conversation that we're having today, who have worked in an environment or for a business or for a company that maybe paid the check but didn't feed them from a mission or a moral standpoint, who are rethinking what they want to do.
Right.
And the fact that we've made it easier, and it will become easier for people to work anywhere, for anyone. In my own company, I think I would say 10 years ago, if somebody would have said, there will come a time when you're going to open up, and you're gonna hire people from anywhere in the world. They don't have to live near your offices. Yeah. I would have said that's not going to happen, because we have in our company here, we have a slide that goes from the second floor to the first floor. We have all of the fun toys, and we have so much fun at work. We have a beer keg, and it's all about work hard, play hard, stay together. And I've never understood, or I've never believed that you could create that kind of togetherness and connection without physically being together. But I've seen it with my own eyes in the last 9 months. So it's changed the way that I think about the potential of working together with people. And that alone is a massive shift. But it goes a lot deeper than that. There are so many opportunities for all of us to kind of reinvent who we are,
reinvent and evolve,
who we want to be. Yeah.
Exactly. So I've got a couple of photographs I'm going to throw up here now. Hopefully they're not too embarrassing for everybody. Hang on 2 seconds. So there he is. There's Jay. There's a nice photo, and there's your headshot. So that's Jay's contact information there too. And it's all the information is going to be at the end of the show and on all the et cetera, et cetera. Yep. So we have a photograph here. So what is this? Looks like you're out in a dusty plain somewhere.
Yeah. We were searching for a hot tub.
So this is Tanya, right? This is Tanya.
Yeah. This is my wife, Tanya. We are burners, as we call ourselves. We go to Burning Man every year and have for many years. And it is our opportunity once a year to kind of find the center of gravity of our relationship. And the single, I would say, most important thing that we do with and for each other every year is just to totally leave all technology and the outside world behind, and go and just kind of rediscover each other and fall more deeply in love every time we go. It's a really amazing experience for us.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that was in front of the temple. Oh, yes.
Oh, sorry, I got to go back. Yeah, that's the temple.
That was in front of the temple. I think that was 4 years ago now, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. And that's the temple that they burn at the end, or they burn the man, right?
Yes. Well, they burn the temple as well. They burn the man, and then the last night of Burning Man, they actually burn the temple.
Burn the temple.
Which is a more solemn experience. Like when the man burns, there are more than 70,000 people in a big circle with the man burning in the middle, and it's a party. It is crazy. The noise and just the sound and the celebration. The next night when the temple burns, you could hear a pin drop. And because people are just quiet, contemplative, and really thinking about their place here and in the outside, outside of the playa as well. It's really a magical experience, actually.
Wow. So there's another. Devin doesn't know that I have these photos here. By the way,
I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, Dev, I don't know if you can talk to this better than I can.
No, honestly, like Jay, you couldn't have said it like any better. I couldn't say it any better myself. Like going and just refinding yourself and refinding your loved ones, and it's just the taking a step away from technology and this materialistic world we live in, and going into the desert. And although there are materialistic things in the desert, they're there for a different reason. They're there to express through art and love, like you said. And yeah, that is pretty much, that's the core reason. Oh my God.
I dug around. I found I couldn't find as many with Jay.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
I got
So
a couple of
for those of you who are listening at home, the first couple of pictures were Jay and his wife with some really sweet hats and goggles on. And then we got into some more pictures of me and my girlfriend spinning fire at Burning Man. So yeah.
And I am certain that I've come across you, Devin, at Burning Man. Because I love watching the people that are playing with fire.
Yeah.
So next time I'm going to pay a lot more attention.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man.
And then so Jay's a big sports guy as well. Jay was here last Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, at Whistler with us, and we got together in one of the local saloons and had a couple of drinks, which we actually can't do right now. So it was a wonderful time. But then I guess also you do a bit of backcountry skiing, and was this at Wiggly's? Where were you? This is Wiggly's. This is Wiggly's. Yeah.
Yeah, up at Mike Wiggly's near Blue River.
Mike Wiggly. That's right. Yeah. So you're cruising here, and then you threw this photo in here just to show that you're human, just like all of us.
Yeah.
Lots of head plants like myself.
And the powder day. Got to show
the thing about that bottom picture is that I wish I could talk about the epic cliff that I fell off, but that's when I came up behind. I was coming down, and I pulled in behind the person that you can see the red pants right in front of me.
Right.
And I wasn't going to be able to stop fast enough. I was going to hit him, so I just fell over. It's the most embarrassing way for any skier to fall.
One of those. It's a flop. You just flop. I give up. You just flop. I know. But the hard thing I always find. So I learned something a couple of years ago. I was up the back in Whistler here, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and I fell like this, like you fell. And I've fallen like you so many times, but it was really, really a big powder day. And I was on skis too, and I couldn't get like my poles. I just couldn't get any purchase on anything. And I was floundering there for 15 minutes, and I was so exhausted. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like I'm going to die here. Yeah. And then a snowboarder kind of just happened to come by, because I was quite a ways out in one of the bowls out there, kind of in the trees. And she goes, "Hey mate." Hey, she was an Aussie. She says, "Hey mate, put your poles in a cross like this, put your hand in the middle and push down. You should be able to get enough purchase." There we go. I never knew that. And it took an Australian to tell me that. Yeah.
Oh, the Australians are crazy. On this exact trip from these photos, we had an Australian with us named Duncan, who carried bacon in his pocket, by the way. He went through the buffet at the beginning of the day and got a handful of bacon and shoved it in his pocket. But he was the one guy. We would come over the edge, and the guide would say, "All right, we're going to go around here." And Duncan would say, "Can I just go down there, mate?"
Yeah.
Like pointing straight. And sure, if you want to go for it, go for it. And so he would just point his skis down and go down like a 500-meter vertical. Just this is crazy. Yes, the Aussies are crazy out there.
The Aussies are crazy. I mean, there's more Aussies. Well, not right now, but usually there's more Aussies here in Whistler than there are locals. It's I think they actually call Whistler like the fifth or the whatever. I don't know how many states in Australia, but the fifth state of Australia is Whistler. Yeah. And so this is something. So, so when you said you were at the Hef's Playboy Mansion, I'm like, oh my gosh, was I was there at the same time? I could have been. I was there with Reiko, my wife, And it was our wedding. I was like our 17th wedding anniversary as well. And then all these Playboys buddies running around and taking off their whatever and jumping in the pool. And I was, it was quite the experience. So when you said that, I thought, oh my gosh, was I there? But I researched, I think we were there in 2004 and you were in 2007 or vice versa. One of the two things. But yeah, that was quite the, quite the experience. I tell you. Yeah.
It is an amazing experience. It's kind of surreal being there, knowing all the history of that place.
Yeah. And then you coming out in his pajamas and then his entourage, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock. And they go in this big limo and they head off to go downtown and party. And what's it? George Costanza. What was the actor? Jason. Yeah, he was there with them. Yeah, the guy from Seinfeld.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Jason. Oh my gosh, yeah, George Costanza. Here you go.
George Costanza.
Yeah. I call him George Costanza. Yeah, so it's. I'm just gonna stop the share here. I just thought I'd throw some photos up there just to.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's always kind of fun. So Dev, do you have a question there for Jay, like a flashback or?
Yeah, I definitely do. Oh, Jason Alexander is his name.
Jason Alexander.
Yes, that's
it. Yes, good old Jason Alexander.
Seinfeld. Oh my
gosh.
Oh yes, I do have a question for you, Jay. So, if you were to like step back, let's say into a younger version of yourself's shoes, what would be your biggest point? What would be your most influential moment, your game-changing moment that you would give to yourself?
To your future self? Yeah.
Or to your younger self. Sorry.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
It's a good question. There are a few things that are coming to mind. I will say that the single hardest thing that I've endured in my life was a divorce. I married pretty young, in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the same confidence or the same insight of my own character and that I do now. And she's an amazing human. She's a special education teacher and has dedicated her life to the service of others. But we just had such different life expectations. I wanted to go see the world and go have crazy experiences in 100 countries. And she wanted to stay at home and read. And that it just wasn't compatible with what we wanted out of life. So the time when I went through a divorce and had to sit down with it wasn't like a typical bad blood divorce. We were still very, very good friends, and I still love her as the mother of my children. And I would go over to my house every night, or my old house after the divorce, and tuck my kids in every single night for like years after the divorce, which I know normally never happens. So it wasn't as destructive as most of them, but I don't know, because I wouldn't change. I wouldn't change getting married at the time, because it's what gave me the 3 greatest gifts of my lifetime, my 3 children. But I would go back at the point in time and tell myself that it's okay. You're going to be okay. Your kids are going to be okay. And I would give insight into how I could have been a better parent in those years that followed. Because one of the things that I've recognized in my, because I went through that experience when my daughters in particular were really young, I think that there were too many times when I did too much of the lifting of the weight for them, where I didn't want them to have to fend for themselves. I would step in too often and try to ease their pains and help them avoid some of life's hard lessons, because I wanted to make life easier for them. I think it was driven from a place of guilt, most likely. And I wish that I would have let all of my kids from early on do more of their own weightlifting and learn the hard way in some cases, rather than try to always keep them out of harm's way. Because I think it would have been eventually I figured it out. Everybody, my kids are amazing humans.
Yeah.
But I would go back in time, because I think I lost maybe a good 8 to 10 years of really effective living because of the way that I beat up on myself.
Right. Well, all I got to say is you did a really good job in the end, because we have Cohagen, your son, on
That's
the
right.
show in a week or so here. So, yeah, so that's exciting. Yeah, so I mean, you did do a really good job. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Nigel. I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, he's a great guy, and he's doing amazing things as well. And we'll share his story coming up too. So, yeah. So yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. That's really nice of you to share that little end bit there, Jay. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Being a little vulnerable there, which is wonderful. So thank you so much, and I hope you can come back to Whistler. We've got a lot of snow out here, sometime soon.
I am hoping to.
Yeah,
I've been there. I've been in Whistler every year for, I think, all but 1 year out of the last 6 years. But this year we're not going to make it because of the reservation system.
I know. Yeah, it's a tough one. Okay, Dev, you want to close up there, you think?
Yeah, definitely. I can wrap the show. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today. Our guest, Jay Wilkinson, amazing man. If you want to check out any of his stuff, we'll put all those links in the description. But other than that, do you got anything else for us, Jay? A little closing remark.
No. So as a closing remark, I will say that it's never too late to be who you might have been.
Incredible. Thank you so much.
That's a good one. Yeah. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. I'm going to